Nigeria needs or should have one bar association? And I think that's an interesting question. It's also even more interesting that it's being raised over El-Rufai, who is a very divisive figure. And my take is, whether or not Nigeria should have one bar association is not the beginning. Should Nigeria have one national judicial council? Should be the question we should begin with. Because after what has happened over the past year with Onogen and the current Chief Justice, given that we're a federal structure in which you have state courts and federal courts, why does Nigeria have one national judicial council? Where, I mean, you've seen what has happened with the latest nominations to the Supreme Court, right? 4 justices from the South nominated about 5-6 months ago or so, and their nominations kept in the cooler. And then what happened? Another set nominated in the last 2 weeks, and one of them, the justices nominated in the last 2 weeks, are senior in the Court of Appeal to the ones who were nominated earlier. Now, all of them are likely to be appointed at the same time, and the ones who were nominated later will become senior to the ones who were nominated earlier. Why? Because of where they come from in the country. Now, that is the question, I think, because lawyers are not the beginning of this thing. Lawyers practice before court systems, right? So how do we address the fact that a federal court system has been utilized in such a way that it is designed for purposes other than administration of justice? If we can break out the National Judicial Council, then it seems to me logical that on the back of that, we will create a decentralized bar. But if we are going to have one National Judicial Council as it is presently run, then the question of whether or not we need to have one national bar, it seems to me, should not arise. And this really is the central nub of this issue. People have tried to sensationalize what has happened with El-Rufai. There was no Christian killed in the Zaria massacre. There was no Biafran killed. No IPOB person was killed in Zaria massacre. Every person killed in Zaria massacre was a Muslim. 347 human beings in one operation taking over 6 hours had their bodies loaded up in trucks. Using 47 soldiers, it took over 6 hours to bury them. And one man was gloating over this massacre. Who was that man? Nasir El-Rufai. Why should we have a mass murderer coming to talk to us about law and about life and about being Nigerian? There is, look, Shiites have been massacred. In Birningwari, Muslims are massacred. In Shiko local government, indigenous are massacred. In Kajuru, the Adara are massacred. In Kataf, the Atiap are massacred. This is equal opportunity massacre we're talking about. And the man goes on national TV and says what? That it is their brothers that are killing them. So if he knows that their brothers are killing them, does that make the killing justified and that they are collecting money? You will think that a responsible governor, knowing all of this, will take steps to bring those people to account. But the major reason, quite honestly, that the NBA acted the way it did was the set of allegations about his, not just disregard for court orders, but attacks on lawyers. Okay? Audu Mekori, a lawyer, El-Rufai ordered him abducted from Lagos and driven to Kaduna, where he was detained because Audu said what El-Rufai did not like. Audu went to court. High Court ruled in his favor. El-Rufai refused to pay. Court of Appeal has ruled in his favor. El-Rufai has refused to pay. Gloria Ballason, the NBA president, went to see El-Rufai, and El-Rufai said because Ms. Ballason had written an article he did not like, he was going to abduct her and send her to jail. Gloria Balasin got a court order. El-Rufai has refused to pay. What happened? He then sent the police after her again. They blockaded her law office and chased her out of her law office last November. For 3 months, she was exiled from Kaduna. The courts had to order the police to vacate. Gloria Balasin has won a court order, and what happened? They are not paying. Those attacks on the legal profession, and the judge, Justice Hannatu Balogun, in her judgment in Gloria Balasin's case last month, specifically found that El-Rufai and the police in his state were attacking the legal profession. This was the High Court of Kaduna State. That was the linchpin of the issue. The question is not whether or not we like El-Rufai or whether or not we like Obasanjo or Awike. The point is this: we have to learn to institutionalize our struggles. Those who want to object to Obasanjo and Wike for good reason. I've written a book on Obasanjo. I'm probably one of Nigeria's best experts on Obasanjo. Those who want to object to them should do what? Write the thing down and pursue it institutionally with the NBA's organs. Let us start holding all these people to account. If I see the same charges, or even something, 20% of the charges we have against El-Rufai, I will sign up. It's as simple as that.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. You say you are on borrowed time, otherwise I will have asked you some questions on the issues you have raised, but this is...
Feel free to ask if you want.
Okay, with deference to Emmanuel Ewere, please, I will come back to you with this question, but Prof, so the issue against El-Rufai is attack on lawyers. My question will still be, if the same standards applied to Malam Nasir El-Rufai is applied to all other invited, I'm so sorry, is applied to other invited speakers as well, will they pass? Will they be enabled to speak at this conference? And what is does the NBA have a standardized criteria with which they use to assess whoever they're inviting to speak at their conference? Or it's just an arbitrary thing? If you receive a petition, fine. If you don't receive a petition, we allow the person to come and speak.
Now, I've been on sabbatical myself from the NBA. As you well know, I am at least one person who went on record to say Paul Usoro was unsuitable to be president of the NBA. From the beginning, I told him to his face he was unsuitable. I've been on record about that. I make no bones about that. Paul is not suitable to be president of the bar. That has been my very well-established position for 3 years. Now, so only Paul can answer those questions. I'm on sabbatical from the NBA until Paul's tenure is over. As to standards applicable, my view, quite honestly, is that the NBA has been part of the problem rather than part of the solution. The introduction of digital era into the NBA's affairs means we can wrest control in a form that begins to make the NBA accountable. We can no longer continue to offer platforms and social capital to legitimize irresponsible and ruinous people. That is what this example of El-Rufai shows. And I'm saying, let us begin also, let everybody who feels seriously about these things begin to make demands in a way that people can act upon. It's not just change.org. When you get the change.org, you've got to get it into the system. That is why we sent our own letter to Konya Ajayi. Konya Ajayi, by the way, is El-Rufai's, Konya Ajayi, who heads the TCCP, is El-Rufai's personal lawyer and has been for a while. And he was the personal lawyer to SLS at the central bank. So the relationships for me are clear. And there are underlying issues of insider dealing I'm not going to go into here. But my point is, we've got to elevate all of these issues now to a place where we begin to hold people accountable. We can no longer operate the way we have done business until now. Absolutely not.
Right. Thank you very much, Prof. We thank you for your time. Mr. Ewere, you have had the presentations that Prof has made to this issue. Do you have a response, or what do you have to say with some of the points raised by Prof that we are not mentioned, that we have not covered initially?
I agree with Prof 100% that the solutions of the bar is not in the hands of our oppressors. Those persons that have caused so much disregard to the association, to the judicial system, cannot provide solution to the bar. So it should not be anywhere close to the association. And we all know that in a democratic setting, pressure groups are a necessity. And the NBA is supposed to be the front row persons leading other CSOs. But right now, the NBA is a press releasing body that can only back and cannot bite. Why? Because they have a very weak system, very weak institutions, very weak sections, and that is bad. If the narratives are not changed, if the leadership do not take responsibilities, then it is wrong. That's why I was disappointed when the president actually apologized to Governor El-Rufai. We owe him no apology. If the body of the association you represent are saying that we are not ready to have Governor El-Rufai on our platform, then I should work with the majority. He should work with the association he represents and not try to paint or politicalize the whole thing. Now, the NBA has pressing issues to look into, like Section 839, sub 1 of the newcomer that they are watching churches protest about. It can affect the NBA as well. Any government that wakes up, any mischievous government that wakes up one day and perceive the NBA to be an opposition and place a phone call to the Director General of the CAC to appoint new management, interim management for the NBA. And that has actually ceased the operation of the NBA. If they are not concerned about such position of the law, where the CAC will be operating on absolute powers without court orders, without court permission, then they are not ready for the needful. They are not ready for the right thing. They have pressing issues to look into, not having political talks with persons like El-Rufai that will send the wrong narratives. I agree with Prof on the issues they raised in their petition, and I think it is a foundation to other associations to hold leaders accountable for their actions and inactions. Now, not just El-Rufai as a person. This is a message for every politician and every organization to select only people with credible records so that they will not pollute the mind of Nigerians.
I thank you very much for this, for your answer and your presentation. We have only about 5 minutes remaining to move into our next program for the day. But now that you have raised this issue about Kamana, would you say that the NBA is asleep to their duties to the Nigeria, because NBA, being a civil society organization, have a responsibility to Nigerians to speak up when matters of law will impact on the well-being of Nigerians? Take the Kama you have mentioned, for example. Why would the civil society wait? This law was debated at the National Assembly House of Representatives. debated at the National Assembly, the Senate, passed by both houses, probably sent back to each houses for reconciliation and rectification of whatever, and then sent to the president. I even learned that it stayed for a long time on the president's table because of one thing again that Nigerians may not be aware of. One of the provisions, one of the issues that this newcomer set to rectify is the requirement that the Attorney General will no longer have the final say if an international investor wants to come into Nigeria. So the law says that for an international investor to be allowed to register a company into Nigeria, the Attorney General will have to sign it off. Then, in order to enable freely international investors to come in, the new law sought to remove that provision. But the Attorney General office refused to sanction that. Despite all the protestations by investors, despite protestations by several interest groups to remove that requirement for the Attorney General to sign it off, he refused. This present Attorney General refused to allow it, and that was what delayed the passage of this law by the president. So what was happening is the civil society not aware of their responsibilities. When these laws were being passed, nobody made any noise until now that I would say it's too late. What do you think? Is the Nigerian Bar Association and the rest of the civil society asleep or what?
I will not blame the CSOs because the NBA is supposed to be the front runner of this whole activism. The NBA is supposed to lead and they will follow. The NBA is also an incorporated trustee, so they can be affected by such laws. And in a country like Nigeria, you cannot leave absolute powers in the hands of Nigerian politicians because they will use it mischievously. These laws may be helpful in other jurisdictions, but in Nigeria, they will use it mischievously. And it is so sad that NBA will not rise on this very occasion. Now they are watching churches protest and they're thinking it will only affect churches, not knowing that very soon it will become known to the whole system that every incorporated trustee can be affected by this law.
But that's my point. That's my point. Why wait till now? The law has been passed at the National Assembly. The president has signed off on the law. Why did they wait till now to start protesting when it is too late? What do they want anybody to do? Why wait till now?
It is so sad. And I don't believe it is late. It can be amended.
By who? By who?
It will go back to the process. And now even a court decision can override that provision.
Then let them go to court. Why protest? Why don't they go to court?
That is where the NBA is missing her whole gist. The NBA has the courts at her beck and call to achieve any favorable decision that will profit the Nigerian nation and her members. But it is very, very rare to see the NBA pushing public interest litigations, pushing ideas of the nation to the courts. It is very sad. It is very sad. The courts have a say on this. And if any judicial pronouncement is made on that provision of section 839 sub 1, it has overruled it. I wait to see the response of the NPA on this. I hope they will discuss this in their 60th edition of their conference.